Gender-based violence, which is one of the most persistent violations of human rights across the globe. Now, according to the World Health Organization, about a third of women worldwide have experienced violence. And scaling it down to the country, a 2016 report by the National Gender and Equality Commission indicates that 39% of women and girls aged between 15 and above have experienced the gender-based violence, with 1 in 4 women suffering the vice every year. Now, a recent study in the country also found that 32% of young women aged between 18 and 24 years and 18% of their male counterparts reported experiencing sexual violence before the age of 18. And this morning I am joined by two ladies, Dr. Eunice Githai, psychologist, as well as Miriam Wachira, the Deputy Executive Director, FIDA Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we've seen startling and troubling and, disturbing statistics on the rise of the number of women who are experiencing domestic violence and violence in general. So I'd like to get, your view on the same, and probably I'll begin with you, Eunice. Are we conditioned to accept violence, as a normal part of our lives as women?
That's a good question. We need kind of behavior change, and I think that most of the advocates for gender-based violence have been targeting the behavior, but really what informs behavior is very important for me as a mental health practitioner. What is that informs behavior? Because before you do it, there are some thoughts or maybe some attitudes and so on. Are we addressing this one? So for me, it's a question of behavior is not stopping because something else is informing the behavior. Yeah.
All right. Miriam, how do we begin to change that narrative of, women, because you see the statistics indicate that a lot of women are the ones who are going through this. How do we begin to change that narrative?
I think we need to start by accepting that violence is not acceptable. I think the fact that our society sees violence against women as something acceptable is where the problem starts. So we need to alter the way we are socialized, that violence solves everything. So it is how we socialize as we grow up, that violence within families, within the society is acceptable. So we need to undo that socialization.
All right. And domestic violence, for that matter, has increased unprecedentedly. And there are a lot of reports even in the media when we get, a man has killed the wife, has killed the children. And then it goes back to now, what is psychologically affecting them? And Dr. Eunice, you being a mental health expert, how do you start beginning to probably diagnose a person who might be vulnerable to committing violence against women?
What I would say, just like any other kind of crime or any other kind of negative behavior, this person, if you do a profiling for them, you'll find this is a hurt person. A hurt person hurts others, because if what I have is hurt, then that's what I'll give to the society. So if you trace this person back to probably the upbringing, they have been, they have grown up, or socialization or whatever, there is a lot of hurt that has happened in this person, or fear, or the negative emotions, really. And so the only thing that they know how to do is to hit back on society, because this is what I know. What has happened to me is I have been hurt, so all I know to do is to hurt others. So if you check back, an abused person abuses others, if in the growing up years I was abused, as an adult I will abuse others, and the cycle goes on. So basically we're looking at hurt people. We want them to change behavior, but we're looking at people who this setup from where they began. Something went wrong and it was not corrected in good time, and so it continues. Again, now it is supported by other factors. It's supported by a culture that is quiet. It's very silent about violence against women. It's supported by a legal system that does not come out strongly to say we don't want this thing, or even when they say it, it is not enforced. So it gets nurtured and becomes almost like an everyday kind of thing. And you listen to some proverbs, some songs and so on. The hero is the man, and you look at this, the traditional setup. it was done. It was not a big deal. So right now, for us to be able to change it, we need to go through a kind of mental reconstruction so that we can redefine.
So the narrative was already cultured from a long time ago.
Yes.
All
yeah,
right.
you're right.
Definitely. And we'll come back to the culture and the legal frameworks that we have in the country at this point. But Miriam, talking about, that cultural and traditional beliefs, to some extent, as Dr. Eunice says, it hinders the progress to address these issues effectively. Do you think anything has changed then compared to now?
A lot have changed, and what is amazing is how, as a country, as a society, we have embraced so many other new modern ways. But when it comes to women and things that affect women, we want to talk about culture, we want to talk about tradition. But yes, when you look right now, we are all on smartphones. We are no longer on the same phones we were on then. So how come we want to hold on this culture where we say violence against women is acceptable? So it's a matter of we are a society that is choosy on what to propagate and what to leave behind. So a lot has changed. Of course, when you look at the years back, maybe there were no laws against domestic violence. There were no laws maybe against a lot of violence. But currently now we have even laws. But the question is, why are we still having so much violence, even when we have laws? I think it's just a society that refuses to accept to move forward when it comes to violence against women.
Look, there are people who even still think that beating up a woman is a way of disciplining her. I mean, Dr. Eunice, how do you change that?
How to change that? In some cultures, if a woman is not beaten, given a small slap, so to say, by the man, she's like, the man is not man enough. And sometimes...
Or even an expression of love.
Yeah. He is recognizing me. And, sometimes we see some psychological disorders, like we call them masochistic women, who wants violence first, before she's treated nicely, like sexual and so on. But we also have... the culture that seems to favor men. But we seem also as, I'm not blaming women at all, because really it's the women who receive the blunt, It's our grandmothers who did all the work and who are also beaten up, and we really can recognize the change that has happened. But there are still some things that are deeply entrenched, There are ways that we look like recently somebody asked me, how come you don't have a daughter who helps you with housework? So I asked her, did I need to get a daughter so that I can get a worker?
Exactly.
You see? And you keep hearing that theme over and over. So when you get a girl child, she is to help you with the work at home. When you get the boy child, he is to be worked for, he is the king there. So I think still, as I'm saying, we need a lot of change in our mental constructions.
Right.
We need change in our attitudes. We need change so that from inside now, our behavior can be different.
All right, in order to reverse that narrative that is deeply ingrained in the society. And before we continue the conversation, I understand that we have Bernardo Juang back and from Migori County, and he has quite a lot from that region. Bernard?
Well, thank you very much. We are here in Migori town. Remember, it is something that has been, many people have been talking about, that is gender-based violence. Of late, we've been seeing the givers of life, that is women, we usually each and every morning, we get them being dumped, their body being dumped, lying lifeless in the bushes, some of them lying in their houses. And of course, with me here are some of the people who have been fighting, who have been in the front line in the fight against gender-based violence here in Migori. And also I have religious leaders here who will be telling us what are the efforts. And whatever we'll be talking about is we would like to know from them what's the main contributing factor to this, and what should be a solution, and when did the rain start beating us. And on this side, this is Susan Mohabe, and also Jackie Paul, and also Pastor David. They will be telling us more about this. To start with, I'll start with Susan Mohabe. Susan, it is something that has been going on, and each and every time we get our ladies lying lifeless on the streets after they're being killed in their houses. What's the main problem? What's the main contributing factor to this?
Thank you, Bernard. I would attribute this to quite a number of factors.
All right, and I do apologize for that hitch there. Bernardo Jung from Migori County. We'll link up with him later on as we get a better network from that region. But our conversation on domestic violence continues here in studio. I'm with Dr. Eunice Githai, a psychologist, and Miriam Washira, the Deputy Executive Director, FIDA Kenya. And we understand, again, we have Bernard. Let's just link up with him just to get a feel of that conversation that he's having from the county.
Well, sorry for that technical hitch. We were speaking to Susan Mohabe. Susan, you were talking there, and we've been thinking our ladies are being killed. What's the main problem?
Yes, Bernard, as I was saying, we have two categories. We have one, our girls. Most of our girls have gone through many challenges. As you know, we also have the issue of FGM, which is not talked so much about. But I believe as at now, that challenge is going down because at least people have understood. Those that decide to go for it know why they want to go for it, and those that don't know why they don't want to go for it. But when we want to talk about gender-based violence, where our ladies are battered, one, I would say that most of our male counterparts are running away from responsibilities. And our girls are suffering insecurity, which means that our men will go out. I'm talking about the young mothers. Our men will go out fearing responsibility of paying school fees, fearing responsibility of fending for the family. They leave the whole burden to the ladies. And when they come back, it's a scapegoat of wanting to make these ladies fear to come out and say, oh, you are supposed to have done this and that, and you didn't do. So our ladies are shouldering a lot of burdens. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susan Mohabe. You are talking about men are escaping.
All right, it appears that we'll be joining Bernardo Jung later on because that network problem there seems quite persistent. But the conversation continues here in studio. Like I said before, we have Dr. Eunice Githai and Miriam Washira from FIDA Kenya. Well, ladies, you know, that conversation on, you know, tradition and cultural beliefs hindering, you know, addressing the issues to do with women facing violence. There's a lot of people believe that violence is just secluded or is sidelined to just being physical or you know, sexual violence. But then there was an issue that came up of emotional violence against women as well. Maybe I'll start with you, Miriam. What is this emotional violence? What does it entail, and how do we go about it?
As you mentioned, and maybe doctor will be better placed to explain it.
Yes.
Emotional violence is where you interfere or use the emotions of the lady as a form of violence, as a form of intimidation. Mostly it will involve a lot of blackmail, if you don't stop doing that, I will leave you. So there's that whole emotional bit of it, stirring the emotions of the lady or the other person to the extent that it becomes a burden to them, it hurts them, and in the end, it will have psychological issues on them.
Dr. Eunice?
Yeah, you know, some people will not slap you, but the words that they hurl at you, they hurt you very deep. You know, they go right inside, they sear your, you know, emotional well-being. So some people do verbal, and it gets very deep. Others will just give you a silence treatment. They're not talking, but it's really targeted at either weakening you, creating fear, threatening you, making you suffer, making you not concentrate on work, making you very disorganized in all manner of things. And so that's a kind of emotional war. So, and it's equally as bad. It's just as bad as physical. Physical, I'll carry the pain or the slap I'll feel the pain, I'll carry the pain, but emotional, nobody sees it. It's right inside. You know, I'm hurting inside, I'm crying inside, I'm wounded, but no one is seeing it. And so I may end up getting depressed. It now spirals into other behavior. I may get depressed, I may think about suicide, I may also be verbally abusive to others, I may be physically abusive to others, because the inner person, you know, the emotional, myself, the emotional person, needs as much wellness as the physical person. So both of them go hand in hand. I am well internally, I'm well externally. So those who hurt externally are just, I would even say probably psychologically is worse, because it can lead to physical damage. Yeah.
And with that comes that culture of silence then, and women do not want to speak out. Then how do you start opening up those avenues for women to come out and speak on such issues? If, you know, if today I woke up and I saw my neighbor with a, you know, with a mark or, you know, a slap mark on the face, I would tell, okay, this one was involved in a fight. But then comes the issue of, you know, emotional violence, and that person is going through so much, but they've kept quiet. How do we have channels for women to come out and speak on them, Doctor?
I would say yes, and I would say no. I would say yes, because in a safe environment, a woman will talk. If I meet another woman and the first thing that happened to me in the morning was being beaten up, I'm more likely to loosen up and talk to the other woman. But when it comes to going further, like seeing a psychologist, seeing the social worker, seeing the policeman and so on, women need to be assured of security. They need to be assured even when I talk, I'm not going to be beaten up, because the fear is if I talk and he gets to hear this, he'll beat me up much more, or he'll verbally abuse me much more. And so this whole thing is a systemic kind of thing, where it's not one person, it's not FIDA alone dealing with this issue. FIDA will not succeed in this battle. It is much more of a system that the policemen are involved, the social workers are involved, FIDA is involved, mothers were involved, a friend is involved. I mean, and a whole society comes in. It doesn't sound, I hope it doesn't sound so helpless, but it's possible really, because if there's something I can do, another person can do, we can all come together and the whole system works towards eradicating this vice.
All right, Miriam, does FIDA provide those avenues for women who really are going through this? In what way and how do they reach, and how do we move forward from that?
As FIDA, one of our projects is access to justice, and part of access to justice, we offer psychosocial support. We have an in-house counselor in every one of our offices, that is Mombasa, Kisumu, and Nairobi. So once a woman comes in and they have emotional trauma, they are physically abused, before they see the lawyer, we encourage them to see the counselor. So they go through the motions with the counselor. The counselor tries, helps her to stabilize. You find most of them will come, but they don't want to go to court. And so the question is, you have come to FIDA, how do you want us to help you? So most of them will come, and after the psychosocial classes, they don't want to go further with it. They don't want the legal process, which we find as a problem, because...
And why is that? What contributes to that?
I would call it the empowerment, the disempowerment of women. The fact that she's asking you, if I go to court, this is a man who provides for me, he pays rent, he pays school fees, I have nothing, I don't have a job, I am hopeless.
If I leave him, my life is ruined.
Exactly. So they will be asking me, Miriam, so if you're telling me to leave, where am I going? What else can FIDA offer me? Of course, currently we do not have such services where we can offer you even accommodation or something like that. But now with the law, we are empowering the woman to know that you can actually leave and the man still maintains you. If it's the fear of they will hurt you further, we can get what we call now protection orders. Now we have the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act, under which victims or even threatened victims have the right now to get a protection order from the court. And that order is supposed to be enforced by the police. So there is that opportunity where the man is told, move out of the house. If the man, it's found that it's a man, or even if it's the woman who is the cause of the violence, court can order them out of the house, and they are told, but you still maintain the family. You still provide for the family. So we, as FIDA, we are working to see how can we enforce this domestic Prevention Against Domestic Act to make it alive, to make it a reality, to protect women and children.
All right. And we'll come to that in just a moment. But before we continue a conversation, I understand that, you know, you said something very interesting about women empowerment, and there was a different opinion among our society, and I'll tell you about it in just a minute. But Bernard Ojwang is live from Migori County. Bernard?
Well, thank you very much. Sorry for that technical hitch. We were speaking to my panel here, that is Susan Moabe and also Jackie Paul and Pastor David, on this issue about gender-based violence. And just at the point, Jackie, you've been seeing cases whereby young girls are losing their lives, women are being killed. What do you think is the main contributing factor to this?
Thank you so much, Bernard. What I would say about this is that the main factor is the socioeconomic factors. We know the rate at which poverty level is in the increase, and I'm sure no man wants to be cited as a failure. So that is one factor. Another one is the deterioration of our norms. As Africans, the society is deteriorating in terms of their culture. What are we supposed to do as culture? What are our roles in culture? Women, men, the society as a whole, what are we doing in terms of our ethnicity? Another thing that I'm seeing is also diseases. We have also mental problems that is coming up. Recently, we've seen so much of it coming up. So I think those are the main reasons. And besides that, we also have issues to do with the rising up of technology. The world is rising up so much. We have the digital life that now most women are lost in this. Most people are lost in this, that they don't know what to pick from the social media and what not to pick. And also another factor is lack of education, lack of information, and also the lack of involving women in decision making. Like you've seen recently, the two-third gender rule was not passed. When are we going to recognize that women are the backbone of the society? We need to hear their voices. We need to know what the women are thinking in terms of society and building the nation. We need to know their views. And then in that way, we will know their decisions. We will know their facts so that we can include them and know the problems that they are going through. Otherwise, the main that I think is affecting us is the socio-economic issues.
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jackie, for that contribution. I'll speak to Pastor David. Pastor, each and every time you get this, and after maybe somebody commits these cases, maybe somebody has killed maybe a woman or the wife, they run to church at least to confess, and so that you pray for them. What do you think is the main contributing factors? You as pastors, what have you done at least to ensure these people are talked to well?
In fact, indeed, my friend, what I would like to say is this. As religious leaders, we have encountered all these things, but the main cause, that is the true fear of God, is not within us. Majorly young men and young ladies, the fear of the Lord is lacking. We have the fear of God, which is out of the mouth, but not practically being seen. And that is why many people, when they have done wrong, they come to church, but they don't have total confession. Because total confession or repentance make you to bear the fruits of repentance. And therefore, we are coming up with an institution of counseling. So at least the church, as the place of refuge, everyone who comes, we take them to the counseling board so that they can be counseled and to know the truth and to walk in the truth.
Okay, but Susan, I'm coming back to you. It is something that has been happening, and you also talk that men are escaping from their responsibility, and as many people have been saying that they are blaming mothers, that they are forgetting their duties. They don't talk to these young girls, and it is very painful. We are losing women. We are losing the mothers. Why do you think mothers? Why do you think women now?
Bernard, at times I find it so funny. When we talk about mothers not talking to their girls, do we equally talk about fathers not talking to their sons to make their sons responsible? Yeah, to some extent what you've said, I'll also agree with it. Because as I had started by saying that ladies have been left with a lot of responsibility. This is a woman who wakes up at 5. Starts by opening that cowshed, escorts the husband to the farm. When she comes from the farm, here she is looking for firewood. After firewood, she's there going to the granary to prepare food to take to the portion mill. When she comes back, she's looking for vegetables. And you know, this man left in the morning and went for good. After shamba, he went to play ile ajua. At what time do we expect this lady to sit with the children and talk to them? And number two,
in Kuria region. What do you think is the main contributing factor?
Yeah, the main contributing factor, first of all, I said about our men running away from their responsibilities. Number two, even after this person has been violated, the ladies shy away. They don't come out to talk about it. We have to look for them in their houses. Tell them, talk about it. Let the law protect you. But you can remember even the other time we were at Ombo, a lady's hands had been chopped off, and she could not accept to talk. Because she also, because of the norms we've been talking about, she knows she has the responsibility to defend the husband who violates her. But again, Bernard, I would say that we also have the responsibility to empower our ladies economically. Like getting them what they can do. Those that didn't go to school, what alternative can they have? Can they do things with their hands, skills? Can they improve their lives through making dresses, through making sweaters? Can they do other businesses? We need to empower these ladies. Thank you.
So before I leave you, what do you think is the main, what should be a solution, at least to curb these cases? Because it is alarming and it is really hurting.
A solution should be, Ben, that let the men also take responsibility of helping the girls, of helping their families, let them own up. Let them look at ladies as mothers, look at these ladies as sisters, look at these ladies as their aunties, look at these ladies as human beings, and let them take responsibility and help the ladies in taking care of families.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Susan. Jackie, you've heard from Susan saying that these ladies should be empowered so that they get something, at least to help them from these irresponsible men. You, from your point of view, what do you think should be a solution to curb these such cases of women losing their lives each and every time?
Thank you so much, Bernard. I agree with Susan. And another thing that I would say that is a solution is to give the women the information. Most of our women lack the information. They don't know their rights. For example, Bernard, a woman goes for family planning, comes back home and the legs are chopped because she doesn't know her right there. The man doesn't want her to go and get the family planning. What do we say about that? She lacks information on what she's supposed to do, on what her roles are, and what she's supposed to get as a woman. That is why I'm saying we should include women in every decision making, given that women are the majority in terms of even numbers. I come from the Lake region. We get women going, there are socioeconomic problems I talked about here. They have to toil. You have to sell your body maybe for fish. We don't see them coming back. The next day, after 2-3 days, you hear the body has been found in the bushes. And it is so much, it is so common that if we really close our eyes into this, we are just getting into worse and worse and worse. Recently, we had International Women's Day. Surely, what was there for us to celebrate? Nothing. As a woman, there was nothing for us to celebrate because we have so much still pending for us as women. In terms of budget, we have NGOs, we have Tuonge that tells women, talk about it. Don't go back in your bedroom and cry there. Talk about your issues. Talk about it to your neighbors. We have church members here. Go to the church, talk about what you feel is hitting you in the house. We don't want to see any more cases of this. We don't want to see any more people dying, committing suicide. A class 7 or a class 8 is committing suicide. We also have to look at it like, what is the society doing about it? Our culture, our system, the TV, what is it? What are our roles as parents and teachers on this? What are we doing about it? So, Bernard, I think it is all about us to think and reflect on what we are supposed to do about it, and even the government. Budgeting on women issues, it has been a problem. anything to do with women, pesa ni kidogo sana. We need funds. We need to be funded. We don't only need to depend on issues of NGOs, women coming together. For example, in my ward, we see many cases of this attributed to drug substance abuse. That is Kanyasa ward, that is in Nyatike. So what I did in my ward, Kanyasa, I empowered the women. All those women who are brewing changa, bangi, like we have Pamela, Mama Pamela there. We give them money to start other businesses like putting up fish, selling milk to the farms instead of doing changa. Because you know what these things do to our people, our men. They think now if you take this, you are going to forget about your problems to do with the school fee. You don't do family planning and all this. So I think that is the reason now we have to look at this issue in detail.
Thank you. Pastor, you've heard from them. What do you think, your last word is the main solution?
Oh, according to the way our sisters have spoken, in fact, indeed, they have said the truth. And what I can add is that the empowerment of ladies is very important. And I would urge even other leaders concerned with the ladies to empower them. And also, I would want to tell the wananchi that killing is sin. It is wrong, and the Bible says that we should not kill. We should treat one another in love. If anything is wrong, come sit down, dialogue together, and if it is worse, run to us as pastors. We shall guide you through the Bible, which give us the direction on how to have peace.
Well, thank you very much, Pastor. You've heard from my panel here. You've heard from Susan, Jackie, and Pastor David. They are saying that these women needs to be empowered, and they are saying that unless they are not empowered, they will do.
In studio is all about gender-based violence, and I'm with Dr. Eunice Githai, a psychologist, and Miriam Washira, the Deputy Executive Director, FIDA Kenya. And the conversation, you know, there's an issue that kept coming up was women empowerment, even when Bernardo Juang was speaking to the panel in Migori County. Now, there's this opinion, or I might say, you know, a sentiment that people are saying women are over-empowered in Kenya today. And so this is then causing agitation to the other gender, causing, you know, leading to a sense of, you know, an increased violence against women. So I'd like to know, first of all, you know, Miriam, are women over-empowered in Kenya? And is this what is causing the agitation towards women?
No, not at all. Women are not over-empowered. We still have a very long way to go. That is just an excuse to propagate the violence against women. We still have a very low level. When you look at women, women are still below men in so many things. When you look at our wages, women are still earning less. When you look at care jobs where the mother is at home, their job is not being recognized. When you look at land, for instance, only 6% of land in Kenya is owned by a woman. So we're still very far. So this is just a narration to cover up all these vices of violence against women. So it's being used to cover up and as an excuse why we should propagate the violence against women. I think there's no excuse. If you meet a woman who is empowered, could you also change your attitude then? Could it be that it's your ego? Could it be that it's your inferiority complex that now it's coming into place? It has nothing to do with the woman, it has to do with you. Could you now take control of your own life without having to resort to violence? Yes.
Dr. Eunice, so do you also are of the same opinion that there's no correlation between the two?
I do appreciate a lot on the women empowerment. They have done a great job. I would not have liked to live the way my mother lived or my grandmother. It really was kind of very demeaning setup,
Yes.
you know. What I would say about women empowerment is that this whole thing, I think the approach should have been to negotiate for the violence. It should have been to kind of negotiate, you know. It doesn't take women alone.
Yeah.
It takes both men and women. If you empower one group and leave out another group, then or not even mention them, just be silent about them, the one you're trying to empower will not get empowered, really.
Right.
Because you be silent on one side, and this man will eventually, because you have threatened his position, he will not do anything. You know, he will go to the changaden in the evening, and what you've been working all day for, he'll come and twist your arm and you'll give it. So is that an empowered woman? So you would want to negotiate for the space where there's power balance, you know, not anybody on top of the other. A kind of renegotiation where the men let the women in, where women let men in, where it's not about you hit us for so long, it's our time to hit you back. It's not where, okay, we want to see how far you are empowered, then go on, let's see. You know, it's like, it's still creating more struggle between the two genders, with the woman feeling, you won't tag me behind, and the man saying, let's see how far you go. I think there needed to be a table, coming to the table kind of thing, you know, where the woman is empowered, but she has got the support of the man, where we empower the woman and then help the man to deal with an empowered woman, a more assertive woman, a woman who will go to work, a woman who has got a bigger salary. There really is need for a lot of negotiation between the two.
All right.
And we also don't look at it in terms of at the curative level. When we are empowering the girl child down there, let's also empower the boy child to deal with this assertive girl who can tell him, hey, no, and I can also do academically better than yourself. So I think we need to go back to the negotiation table where we balance power really quite a bit.
All right. You know, we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to gender-based violence, but of course, because of time constraints, I'll take your last comments and briefly just give us an idea, Miriam Wachira. Do we need to review a criminal justice system when it comes to gender-based violence? Where are we at in the country at this point, and where are we heading, and how long will that take, probably?
We actually don't have much to review. We have very good laws as a country against violence, whichever kind of violence you think about, not just gender. And even now for gender, when it comes even to domestic violence, we now have a specific act for that. What we are lacking as a country is the implementation of the laws and the awareness of the laws. Just the society, the common mwananchi knowing what law protect them. When they report to the police, why the policeman should not tell them, ini mambo ya nyumbani, go sort it out in your house. Because now there's a law, there's a domestic prevention against domestic violence law. So it's for the society to know how to use the law enforcers knowing how to use the law, and the whole system implementing the law.
All right. Thank you, Miriam. And Dr. Eunice, with your background as a psychologist, you know, what advice would you give those people who've gone through domestic violence, and those who are going through it right now? What advice would you give them, and what way forward for us as a country?
I would say that there's hope. We have come a long way, and for the silent people, we want them to discover their voice and speak it out. Speak to your neighbor, speak to your brother, speak to your sister. Look for someone in the hospital. Just talk to anyone, a social worker. Be open to counselors, because I think a lot of this also takes the person's initiative to look for help, because they're the ones who know their pain, they know where they're suffering, and we are out here saying, yeah, we can help. Again, we want to ask everybody to work, you know, it needs a systemic kind of approach. Let everybody come in and assist. But actually, it is a war that can be negotiated. It's a war that can be won.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Eunice Githai, psychologist, and Miriam Wachira, the Deputy Executive Director, FIDA Kenya. A conversation on gender-based violence in the country. Where are we at and where are we heading?